Hi, Adriana. Hello.
Hey, how are you?
How are you? Good to see you.
Yeah, you too. Congratulations on the 100 episodes. That's
Yeah,
exciting. Yeah.
it is exciting. Thanks for being here for this kind of quickly organized celebration of 100 episodes. I didn't even see the time go by, but now looking back, I just see all the people that I had great conversations with, and it's really cool. I'm really happy to be here, and I'm happy to have the chance to talk with you and some of the other guests
Mhm.
who were on the show before. So yeah, what have you been up to since we last spoke? You now have a podcast too, right?
Yes, I learned a lot from you. Yeah, I think we spoke last time about universities and supporting students and especially now during COVID times. So, still working in advocating for research and higher education, delving a little more into the workforce side of things and again supporting students. And then on the side, have many projects on the side, but one of them, as you mentioned, is through the Journal of Science Policy and Governance, which is an international open access peer-reviewed publication that publishes policy research from early career scientists. And the podcast is sort of part of my role there to elevate students and early career fellows in through events, webinars, conferences, and so on, to sort of get their work out there more and get them to talk about it.
Mm. So science policy. There's going to be there's going there's been a lot of conversation this last year about health policy, but I'm sure there was stuff happening on your side of things. Can you talk a little bit about what this last year has been with the pandemic, and with the universities closing, hiring freezes, etc. Can you talk about a little bit about what you've been seeing or hearing in Washington?
Yeah, so and just to be clear, my opinion. So the opinions that I will be talking about are my own, not my employer's. I think from what I've seen, there's been a lot of advocacy for research recovery to think about how we might be able to reopen labs and what that looks like. People have had to shift projects from their normal research to COVID topics. There's a question: what happens now? Will they go back? And as I mentioned, I think there's more of a focus on kind of the pipeline and the concern of new students coming into the system.
Hmm.
Will that I mean it affects trainees at all levels, but when they're coming in, folks who are on the job market or trying to graduate, and the other side and sort of in between. So it's sort of all over, but. We actually recently organized a congressional briefing with grad students and postdocs from the UC system to go through their work and tell their stories and sort of what they've gone through, which is both research and other things, like childcare, housing, and all of that. So sort of really trying to paint a picture of what's going on and again, make the case for research recovery funds and why we need to help this next generation.
Hmm. And just a question: these questions you've been asking, what form? Is it going to come out as then a document, or is this something that people can go and read online? These narratives.
I would say that a lot of the work revolves around legislation that exists around this, or is being written now, or sort of coming down the pike to our office. We've done a lot of these sort of virtual events.
Hmm.
That recordings are available. People can watch. I definitely would recommend watching this one, the latest, because it really makes a big impact, I think. Yes, we are trying to do it through these virtual events, and then also looking at legislation that's coming down and seeing how that can be done. So there is a Early Career Researchers Act that came out probably sometime last year, and so again that's around this idea of how do we support trainees in the system and giving some extensions and trying to do that sort of from the legislative side.
So without spoiling too much, so people can, are motivated to go and watch, can you share a little bit of what you've seen to be the most frequent or the most important obstacles or difficulties people are, and especially early career researchers, are going through right now?
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to quantify. So that's one of the issues, is that people say, yeah, I can't go to the lab, and all the stories are the same. We're trying to use data as evidence, and trying to gather data from campuses and some of these things isn't the most straightforward thing. But it's sort of, you hear the same thing over and over, that their projects are stalled. Their grants, they can only renew so much, and some of them were on fellowships and they had to get on another one. They're funded by NIH, so the grant ran out, they got another grant. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty with this, and advisors trying to keep things going as best they can. And, there is also obviously a discipline difference, that folks who are doing maybe computational work, they may be able to still advance versus wet lab. That discussion of between what's happening between disciplines. And yeah, I think there's a lot of concern with kind of long-term career development, because obviously publications are slowed down. How will that affect the trajectory of a student who's maybe second year or third now, and down the road when they will have to show that they have publications for when they go to a faculty position or something like that. So that's the discussion of this long-term effects of the pandemic on the research system, which is I don't know what it'll look like when when we go back. Yeah,
we'll have to wait and see. Now, question: with the vaccines rolling out as they are, do you see some kind of are people breathing, and are things are people less anxious about the next few months, or are things still pretty much frozen in terms of universities, research, going to lab, etc.?
Yeah, it's hard to know because I feel like it's sort of patchy, like here and there, and each state is doing something different. Even within DC, right, different things are happening here. So I think it's hard to say that it's regulated as much as it could be, but I think there's hope that hopefully we'll be able to go back to the lab soon, go back to our office. I think I guess it's hard to know what that's going to look like in the long term, but
yeah, no, it is difficult. It's no one has gone through this in the the generations that are alive today, and well, at least the good thing is we do all now have Zoom or something like Zoom, and we're able to, like you're saying, do a lot of the parts of our work that can be done on a computer, and the meetings that used to be in person now can be held like this. There's some fatigue around that too, but hey.
Yeah, I think for us, it's been helpful because, as I mentioned, we do a lot of sort of, bringing researchers to DC from California. There's a lot of logistics, a lot of events, hotel, food, and all of that stuff. So it's nice to be able to just say, okay, let's have a Zoom meeting. And I think it's nice in a way, but it does kind of, there is a lack of interaction in a way, because obviously a lot of our job is, going to the Hill and being in person, being in the office, and, interacting. So it's not the same thing when you're having a, Zoom meeting with a Hill staffer for 15 minutes, right? Than actually being there. But at least we can continue our jobs.
Of course. And now I see a lot of interest on LinkedIn, on Twitter, of young researchers for science policy. Can you talk a little bit about that? Is it are there ways for young researchers to get involved today, even though things are how they are? And how, and are you feeling this too? Am I, is my impression correct that somehow there's this window opened and people say, okay, I can actually do this work that's related to science, that is not really science, but then I can impact the whole scientific community? Is it just an impression I have, or do you confirm that there's something happening?
Yeah, I mean, I do see a lot more young people getting into policy. I think it's become a trend in the last few years. And now, what I advise students to take advantage of the virtual space. There's a lot of, webinars going on. You can learn. Networking is a little harder, but I think you can sort of do the same thing, you would do in person, kind of go up, email the panelists and say, I really liked your talk. Let's have a 30-minute conversation. I think you can still do some of that. And yeah, I think, policy, as you said, I think it allows you to kind of look at things from a broader perspective. I think there's a lot when you're kind of transitioning from the lab. I think there's a lot of learning curves, at least it was for me, and still undergoing some of that. But it's a different way of thinking between kind of being really steeped into, your project for 4 or 5 years versus, policy is very sort of a generalist kind of role where you're, following maybe 5 or 10 different issues on a given day and kind of very high level, right? So it's a, kind of total different way of thinking about these issues. But I think it's interesting. And, now I think, we're also in the new administration. There's a lot of things that are changing, and people are hopeful that things will get better, and we'll see how they go. But it's an interesting time to be in this space too.
And are you involved in any events? Are there any events, seminars, conferences coming up that the people who are interested in science policy can put on their calendar and attend and learn a little bit more about this?
Yeah, so during the year, I would say, the AAAS conference is something to attend every year. The NSPN symposium is a good one for early career. I think the ones coming up now are ASBNB, and also the National Postdoc Association.
Okay.
That's also coming up. So I think that those are helpful and kind of large conferences. I mean, I would say that I would also look for kind of discipline-specific ones, because I'm sure those are also happening. But if you're interested in broadly in policy, these are good ones to attend.
And actually, yeah, I am not able to multitask and try to find those links now. Eventually, in the comments for this video, I'll put them if you share them with me. Now, another question, just out of curiosity, of pure curiosity. What are, let's say the hot topics now in your experience in terms of science policy? Are they all COVID related? Yeah, pretty much. Hey, go ahead. Just if you can share what you see happening and what are the important things that are happening right now.
Yeah, I think a lot of them are. There's been a lot of different variation. With the different variations of the vaccine and different labs sort of trying to do that, trying to extend funding for that sort of work. I do think, and I think people are learning more about how the virus works and all of that, the biology, the genomics of it. There's some discussions on that you probably wouldn't have had before, trying to get down to kind of the genetics of it. Other things, I think obviously everything relates to COVID, and that, going back to this pipeline issue and how it affects women in STEM, how, women are publishing less, they have maybe less opportunities to get grants. So again, like the whole pipeline and how it affects different groups. I think I've seen a lot of legislation related to diversity, and that's part of it, that also trying to diversify sort of the pipeline. But with COVID, the effects of COVID on different groups are, that's a topic that I think a lot of people are talking about. trying to think. Yeah, I've seen a lot of those. Like I mentioned, there's this early career researcher bill. This is sort of the things that I think about, the pipeline and COVID effects on, women, early career researchers, and different groups in the system. Yeah.
Anything on the mental health side? Because I imagine people, a lot of people are going through high anxiety at these times.
I'm sure there are. I would look at the National Institute of Mental Health, probably. They do research on this. I think a lot of that is also kind of on the education side, so maybe less research. So I'm more on the research side of things. I think there is, I've seen things from the university about, just our own mental health. We've been able to take days off, as is reasonable. And, you can take vacation, or whatever that means now. So I think, that's to say that I think institutions are also dealing with this and trying to make sure that their faculty and students are able to still do what they're supposed to do, and the staff, and trying to accommodate different things for us as well. So that's appreciated.
At the university level, of course. Yeah. And I'm just curious. So how has the podcast been going? Because you've now started for a little while, right?
Yeah, so we just finished season 3, which is hard to believe. So, it's a weekly podcast, which it goes fast. So there's a lot of, I think it's, a quick turnaround. And I think it's more work than I anticipated initially.
It is a lot of work.
And so, we have both YouTube and SoundCloud, so trying to offer video and audio so people can watch it or, listen to it on their walks or something like that. We've done sort of different formats. I think season 1 was sort of individual interviews, and then we started doing more discussions, which everyone seems to enjoy. And, there's a trade-off between how many people can you have in, keeping it pretty short if you don't want to go over maybe half an hour, having a meaningful discussion about different publications in that time, and, getting some really good messages out there. And then, so, I think we've learned a lot about kind of, speaking. Again, I think a lot of us, obviously they're academics, so we're not really very used to being on these podcasts. It's a learning curve. Yeah. And
how
then,
are you taking care, just out of curiosity, how are you taking care of the editing, etc., all that side? Do you have a kind of an office of, people that take care of that, technicians, let's say, or how?
So we actually we have a podcast manager who has done really a great job with kind of the graphics, editing the videos, but also other things around, graphics, social media language, and all of that. So, but it's to an extent, I think we've gotten into a routine, but it is still quick to try and do it once a week. So.
So 3 seasons. Each season has how many episodes? Just so people kind of see what they can expect in terms of variety right now.
Yeah. Probably about maybe 7 or 8 on average, depending on how many publications we had. So we try to group them kind of by topic. And then, I think the challenge for us is we want to make sure that all the authors are able to speak. Some of that ends up being retroactive, that going back to older issues and saying, because obviously the podcast didn't exist when the journal started. So we want to kind of go back and do interviews, but also looking forward. So we just had an issue launch yesterday that will also interview those folks. So that's kind of the challenge right now is, how do you go about making sure that you are doing it in real time, I guess, but also going back to make sure that people who published in the past also get the chance to be on the podcast. So, yeah.
Very cool. And can you share what's the theme of the, let's say, like the last episode was about?
Yeah, so I think a lot of the last ones were actually, there were a couple of mental health. There are a lot of drug, kind of drug development. I'm trying to remember what else. Yeah, it's pretty good variety.
Okay, so Adriana, I don't want to keep you if you have to go. The next guest has written and said that she has some. She's going to be a little bit late, so I'm just saying if you need to go, it's fine.
Yeah, I can stay a
Uh,
little bit longer. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So I don't know if it's you were in one. That's I'd say the first batch of interviews on Papa PhD. I don't know if you had the chance to listen since. Me too. Like, there's been a learning curve for sure. I've changed some things in the format. When you came on the show, I was pretty much going verbatim through a list of questions, if I
Mm.
remember well. And well, that has changed. Now it's become much more conversational. And but yeah, I wonder whether you've had the chance to listen to any of more recent episodes.
Yeah, I've listened to a few. I know it's always interesting to hear these career transitions. Some
Mhm,
people that were very similar to my background and then sort of,
mhm,
did something totally different. Or, yeah, it's interesting. Um, but I do relate to the point that you made also about, I think I was the same way. I was very sort of scripted starting out and,
yeah.
making sure that I was answering questions. And then I realized that it's more interesting if you kind of follow the conversation and ask questions based on what people
Mhm.
say and, take their cue and kind of go from there and ask the next question. And it's definitely something to learn.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
is a learning curve, and like you said, when we come out of university, of grad school, we know, the way we think, the way we analyze things is very structured in a certain way, and
Mhm.
we're certainly not trained in this type of media type situation, and interview technique is really something you learn, I guess. And well, what's the thing? It's 10,000 hours, right? So the more we do them, the better we'll we'll get at them.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, the kind of the marketing side of it, because yeah, like we're not trained, not trained in business and, trying to, at least from our side, drive traffic to the podcast so people will
Mhm.
listen, trying to build the audience when you're starting out. And obviously having early career researchers isn't something that people think about, or, oh, I'm going to listen to this because, it's
Mhm.
something you have to build your fan base, right?
Yes,
Um, and
it's
then,
they're very niche, right? Even just the PhD career thing is very very niched. I totally understand what you're
yeah,
saying.
that's true. And, trying to, I'm curious what you've done too, but, we're trying to kind of, tweet 30-second versions or that sort of thing, right? So kind of driving people to the episode, but getting their attention with, a quick, click here, watch 20 seconds of this, that sort of thing. So, like I said, the marketing is a whole other thing. Yeah.
It is, and it is also a lot of time. I have a system. Uh, my contacts, and again, for anyone watching, if you want to reach out to the post academic, let's say, community, go to LinkedIn. People are there. People are eager to share, their stories or their, you know, any advice that they can give you, especially if you come from the same, if you follow the same track that they have. And so there's some posts on LinkedIn, and I do post sometime in the week before the episode, kind of a 1 minute audiogram type thing where
Mhm.
there's a photo of the person, there's some waves moving representing the sound, and
Yeah.
then there's legends, if someone is can't hear, or
Mhm.
simply just wants to read and doesn't want to listen. Yeah,
Fine.
we put
Yeah.
the subtitles there. And but then there's so much more. There's also the show notes, preparation of the show notes. I don't know if it's your podcast guy who takes care of that. That also takes time.
Yeah.
Plus, then yeah, taking part in conversations, etc., etc. But yeah, it is, especially when you start a podcast, to get that first traction. it feels lonely for a long while.
Yeah, I've enjoyed the conversations. It's interesting because for something like this, for a journal, I mean, I don't know that this has been done for other journals, but because it's so individual that everybody publishes their paper, right? And so bringing, 4 people together who wrote about totally different things and trying to make that as this is the theme. And they've enjoyed it too. They said, they want to read each other's papers now because they met each other. And so it's creating kind of a community and in a space that isn't really meant for that, or traditionally not, because right, you publish your paper and you can put that on your CV and I did that, but it's creating something beyond that. Yeah. Yeah.
That's cool, and I imagine that they also then can use that to share on their platforms, whichever they are, right? If they go on the podcast, they talk about their research. That's a new thing that they can now show. Especially talking about their articles. It's different than just sending the person the PDF and say, okay, read this.
Yeah, definitely trying to get beyond that to, like I mentioned, get their, work and their voices out there to, we did this space policy conference, and we had one of the authors, I think is an undergrad. So just these things that, you don't normally see panels with grad students and undergrads at these conferences. So trying to build that, and obviously it's good for them and their CV to have something like that. And, we're trying to build that for them. Yeah.
For people who listen to your interview on Papa PhD, this reminds me of something you did when you were in grad school, which was this career discussion club, which again was bringing students together to talk with someone who had an atypical, let's say, career path. And it feels like now, the loop kind of was there was a full circle, and you're kind of doing the same thing, but at another level.
Yeah,
Bringing
I
people
think
together.
so actually that series was for, I think it was postdoc specific, and then but we did have grad students attend. Yeah, I think I'm always going to be in this space where I want to help students transition and think about where they want to go next. And I get a lot of questions and do kind of one-on-one conversations with them about how did you get your job. I'm on a panel tomorrow again talking about that. So I enjoy doing these kind of educational panels and also one-on-one if people want to ask questions and get resources. So I'm always going to be, I think, that kind of mentor for them regardless of what I'm doing. Yeah. Yeah.
And one thing that I feel, so I think that's a trait you have of liking to do this type of thing and to be in this type of position of bringing people together. But I think that it's super important now that we're all at home watching, looking at a screen instead of being actually outside at a cafe or something. So I'm really happy that you, in your path, in your professional path, there was the chance for you to to now be doing this at another level, and maybe start interdisciplinary collaborations. Who knows? Just based on the fact that people were on your podcast together talking about their research, it's really, really cool.
That's true. Yeah.
Adriana, I think my next guest had some sort of a real problem and is still not here. Again, whenever you need to go, just let me know. It's fine.
Okay.
And then we'll go to the next guest when they'll be here. But I'm really happy to see where you are. I'm happy to see also that with everything that's happened with COVID, you're still able to develop projects and make things happen that you enjoy. And as always, I always love to share the stories and the journeys of PhDs who left the bench but are having fun doing other things. Because right, having fun in what you do is important, right?
You have to enjoy your job. Yeah. I mean, that's a good lesson, because sometimes you kind of go with the flow and what everyone else is doing, and it's good to stop and think about it. Is this the path I want to take? And even in policy, there's a lot of different ways you can go. And it's good to ask yourself where you want to go, and is this position going to help you get to the next level? And that, I think, that goes for kind of outside experiences as well, right? So, I think, I always encourage volunteering, and all these activities are helpful and, teach you different things, you meet new people, and, I advocate for volunteering as being a good professional development tool, but also that has to be strategic as well. Like, what kind of activities will help me get to the next level, or, that sort of thing. And that's true in your job and also in your outside activities. Yeah.
I totally agree, and we did talk about that in our interview, and I do think that volunteering, if you have the time and the possibility, is very enriching. And plus, you try different things, you meet different people, and the other thing we talked is how important meeting new people from different spheres, how important it is to your development. So yeah, Adriana, I'm going to bring so that other person ended up really not making it, but I have Natalia Bielczyk, who is here. Oh, and now we have Inês also coming up. So I will bring Inês first, because she was the one who was planned, and then Natalia, and we'll go from there. Hi,
Hi,
Inês, how are you?
Adriana. How are you?
Good.
Apologize for my delay.
No problem, no problem. I'm instead of making Natalia wait, I'm gonna bring her on because we have the space. Hi, Natalia.
Hello.
Nice to meet you.
Good to see you again.
Yeah.
This is awesome.
Yes,
I've never been in a live party like this.
Yes. Well,
this is fun. Yeah.
I decided to do this because I really wanted to celebrate the 100th episode, and I thought, and I did a version with part of my French guests in the morning. It went really well, and I'm really happy that I decided to do this because, well, I've been talking just with Adriana for a while, but the cool thing is that conversation between the guests has also been really interesting. So, Inês, you from when we talked for the podcast, things have changed for you geographically. You're no longer in Portugal right now.
Yeah, but it's quite temporarily.
Okay.
COVID, of course, brings a lot of harm for us and a lot of bad things, not only in terms of mental health, but also in a lot of other fields. But for me, it also brought something good, which is since I'm working remotely, I could come to California with my partner because he had a project here. So I'm still working. I would raise a glass to you to celebrate your 100th episode, but it's 10:30 in the morning, so I think that wouldn't be very advisable. But yeah, that is it.
I have water here.
I'll drink with water too to you.
And what's cool about you and Natalia, whom I'm going to give the word to in a minute, that you come on together, is that Inês gives coaching to PhDs through a company of another guest, and the company is called Chaperone. And Natalia is also someone who is developing projects to do with improving skills for PhDs to pick up, to set up their careers and jumpstart what comes after the PhD. So it's actually cool that you're online together.
That's awesome. Congrats, Natalia, for your work.
Natalia, do you want to talk a little bit about what's been happening with you, and maybe also share where you are, so that we can show how international this is?
International.
Well, not much changed for me geographically. I'm still in Nijmegen in the Netherlands, and today I might look like a person with coronavirus for a good reason, because I'm just having a relapse of the disease, so I have to tell you in advance. But other than that, everything is fine. I'm now working on the aptitude tests that will help professionals, not only PhDs, but also other white-collar professionals, in better recognizing what is their preferred way of creating value in a society. Because I identified 8 main profiles in terms of in what ways you create value, and also in which tribe in the job market you fit best. So it will be a test that helps you find your spot in the job market. So in which tribe you fit in best, and also in what role. And I think it's I mean, this is my favorite project at the moment. I was working on it for the whole winter, and it's coming out in a few weeks. And we are just trying to integrate the front end with back end, and it's really hard for some reasons, like because we had to make like custom made system of payments. Also, it's quite a complex project because everything has to be automated, and we have a few different options. It's complicated, but yeah, I'm very happy doing this. I'm just finishing writing the booklet with all the model explained, and yeah, it's coming out very soon.
Cool,
Yeah.
very cool. I can't wait to see. Actually, I just want to say Natalia has written a book about this question of finding where you fit in the socio-economic system after your PhD. And also she organizes workshops with universities. Plus, she has a YouTube channel where she interviews people about this. And Adriana has been interviewed by Natalia, if I remember correctly.
Well, yeah, and I have the book right here, so definitely recommend it.
Now, Inês.
Well, I hosted David, so
I was there.
So that's also I can recommend both episodes. If you guys didn't watch them, you can access them at Welcome Solutions YouTube channel.
Yeah, Welcome Solutions.
It's a bummer that you don't get to sign the book digitally. That would be nice one. Yeah.
Now, Adriana, were you gonna say something?
No, I was just thinking that it's interesting that we're all kind of in the space of, career development, helping people transition into different careers, and we're all, doing that. And I don't know, having been in that space and now in my role, I still enjoy doing this on the side as well. So I don't know. As I was telling David, I think once you have this sort of personality, I think you're always going to be a mentor to somebody because you just want to help them.
No, and and again, people on LinkedIn, before going on LinkedIn, I thought it was something very dry, very cold, and now I'm in there, it's totally the opposite. At least I can say about the PhD community, it's the total opposite. People want to help, people want to answer questions you have, or give you advice, or may put you in contact with someone. So I totally advise people who are still in graduate school to start building their profile there and keep it up to date. Inês, I'm really curious about your experience with Chaperone, to the extent you can talk about it, because it's a one-on-one coaching thing, right?
Yeah. It is.
Can you share a little bit about the experience? Because when we met for the interview, you were starting, or you were about to start that.
Yeah, I've started already. Can I just add a quick note to what you and Adriana said, because I really have like something inside of me that I want to bring out. There's so many people out there that think that LinkedIn is cold, just like you said, and that you saw before. And it's very, very interesting because when you get into it and when you start contacting people, people have their hearts wide open to help you. Most of the people on LinkedIn, if you write them, they answer back and they try to help you in any way. If they don't have the time, at least they answer back and they tell you, they let you know. And I think that's fabulous because it shows that there's so much humanity out in the world. And it's something that nowadays where everyone's isolated, it's so important. And one of the things like that Adriana said that also reasoned with me so much is that whenever you go through something and you go through difficulty, then you kind of feel this urge, and like if it's your mission to help people go through that too. And I think that's something that most likely we all have in common, that we went through something that was not easy, and we really want to keep other people from going to all those difficulties. So I think it's really nice what you said. And to all of you that are hearing us, don't be afraid of LinkedIn. Really, people are so willing to help, and that's amazing. And it was really an amazing surprise for me also when I went on LinkedIn and started contacting people. I contacted David through LinkedIn the first times, and it was quite a very fluid conversation from the beginning.
Mm.
So hopping onto your question,
Yeah.
chaperone.
What are people's issues when they come to you? What are they stressed about? What do you want you to why do they want your help, or what do they want your help for?
Well, usually people that come to me have a very specific profile because of my profile, and they identify with it. So they're either studying or just finished studying something related to health sciences, and they feel like they don't want to practice something related to health, either being a doctor or being a nurse or being a vet, and they want to change, or they have been practicing health related professions, and they feel like they want to change, but they feel like they're blocked. They don't know what to do. It's quite scary, because I remember when I left university, I studied medicine and I didn't even know what kind of departments were on the company. Like, what's HR, what's compliance, what's finance, like what the hell are these people doing? So it's actually sometimes it's very, very simple questions and very simple matters, but it's so hard for someone that is from the outside and doesn't know anything about it. So a lot of the work that I do in Chaperone, and even when people contact me, sometimes it's a short conversation where people just realize, after all, it's not that hard, or they don't know where to start. A lot of people, it's like this. It's like, okay, but I've been doing this for so long. What do I do now? Where do I start? Like, which industry would most likely like to have me according to my set of skills? And more, the companies are also valuing so much human and social skills. I hate calling them soft skills, but for the people that are still using that kind of terminology, the soft skills, they're valuing that because they understand that when you are a fast learner, when you are motivated, when you are eager to grab the projects, when you are a good team player, then it doesn't matter the background that you have. What does matter is that you are committed to it and that you are a team player and working in the community. So that's mainly the kind of people that want to talk with me, and I think it's fascinating. I'm truly deeply grateful that I have this opportunity, and I also have to thank publicly Pedro Rezende for calling me in and invited me to be in Chaperone, because I'm doing something that I hope that someone had done with me before when I was having so many questions, and it's really fulfilling. So if any of you are having questions, I think that most people that are doing whatever that we are doing, either in whatever industry, it's the same. So don't be afraid to reaching out for help, because we do want to help. Everyone wants to help, because everyone's gone through something.
Yeah, I see Natalia and Adriana nodding a lot. Adriana, in government, is it the same? This type of profile is appreciated. Someone who takes on projects independently, someone who has the power of analysis, the type of profile a PhD has. Because if there's one thing that on the show we haven't talked a lot, and you're in an interface, but we haven't talked a lot. I haven't had the chance to talk a lot about what about spots in the government. Is the PhD profile adapted to that environment?
Yeah, I think a lot of skills apply. There's a lot of, I think I would say a lot of what I do is, summarizing a lot of information into a short paragraph, kind of picking out what the main issues are. It definitely helps to have this analytical brain and be able to, research a number of things and then sort of synthesize that. I do think it helps. I guess, in my case, it's sort of niche also because I actually work on research issues. So having a research background and having gone through the academic system is appreciated because you kind of understand, what students go through, what the issues are from the bench, because you've been at the bench. A lot of people who are in these jobs have never been in science, and they're not, which is interesting in itself because you learn from other people and their backgrounds. And, I think that's one of the things I found maybe the most shocking, or, going from this space where just you're among academics, everyone is, getting their PhD in the same discipline. And then when you transition to a role like this, everyone in the office is coming from a different space and has a different degree, law or public health or something else. It's a very interesting transition. And then, at the moment, actually, I'm the only one that has a science degree in the office. So, it's a very interesting dynamic to switch to this sort of environment.
But you did find your tribe. So Natalia, can you, without spoiling the work that you're doing, can you just talk a minute about this thing of finding your tribe? I did have conversations about that, and it's true that when you come out of your PhD and you are leaving academia, let's say, especially if you're not even staying adjacent to it, it feels like you're leaving a tribe. It does, and it's hard. It can be sad. There's some grief there. What sort of pointers do you have for people?
Yeah, actually, referring to what was said before, I agree that PhDs are desired in many environments, but on the other hand, there is no such thing as PhD job. Like, there is no such category. So we are desired but for the reason that we have specific personality traits and skills that we develop during a PhD, and you have to learn how to navigate to use those skills in your advantage. So it won't be given. You have to learn how to use your strengths in the right ways, and how to find a group of people that will appreciate you most. So that's very individual. It's not that everyone will get the same answer to the same question after a PhD. So definitely, there are many. Like in my research, I did a lot of field research, and I identified many points where, in some unexpected ways, you can figure out which tribe you fit. For instance, just one example: if you ask someone, why shouldn't you steal from other people? A person who is an entrepreneur will more likely answer because it's bad karma than because it's sin or because it's evil. It's like it's just different way of thinking, and about everything from how you should schedule a day, through how you should build relations with people, to what money is and what capitalism is, and like different categories of values and beliefs and preferences that are very different. And so that's what the test is also based on. So it's not about whether or not you are good analytic, or if you can do technical writing, or if you can program in Python. It's not about that. It's about the way you look at the world, and the way your mind is structured, and also how you build connections with people. So it's like all these non-material values that define you as a professional. Yeah. And there is no simple answer. There is no just one pill that you can take. And like this test, actually, in the tests that we were doing this winter, the test was meant for 1 hour, but people usually were taking more just because they wanted to spend more time thinking about themselves. And the record was 5.5 hours. And the person who actually spent 5.5 hours on it actually thanked me in person by email, that it was that was quality time for her, spending over 5 hours on this test. I was like, oh, this was unexpected. But many of these questions she never asked herself before. And only after she got those questions, she was like, oh man, like I didn't know myself really. And it took me a long time to try to hack like which particular questions you should ask to be able to best tell where someone fits. And it's very hard, but it's also fun. Yeah.
I'm going to bring another guest on. It's going to be a little bit cozy, but I'm going to bring on Susanna Harris, whom also Adriana knows. Natalia, I'm not sure if you have met yet, but welcome, Susanna. Super happy to have you here on this episode 100 live party for Papa PhD.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, and huge congratulations. I mean, that's a ton of work to do that, and I think everyone in this room has had projects we've started and said, "Oh, this was more work than I anticipated." And I would assume that 100 podcasts would make that sort of mark.
It's a lot. It's a lot of pleasure especially the part when I'm chatting with you and with other guests. And but then there's the editing, there's writing show notes that, it's work and it's long hours. But then I was mentioning this morning in the French version of the party, is the day that on Thursday I published the episode, and it's such a feeling of accomplishment and of a job well done, that it's all worth it in the end. Susanna, we were talking about finding our tribe, and I consider, tell me if I'm wrong, that you have somehow managed to very quickly find a tribe where you're quite happy just after your PhD. You confirm?
Yeah, I would say so. I tend to not use the term tribe. I kind of just say, find my people.
Peeps.
And, I think that, but I do. I feel like I found my people. It feels like I had this feeling before where when I went from undergrad to grad school, it was such a nice feeling I loved college. But going from college to grad school, I was suddenly surrounded by everyone I was surrounded by was in grad school, was excited to be learning science. And it wasn't just a couple people I knew that I could turn to and say like, oh, you know how cool this paper is? It was everybody around me that would get excited about that stuff. And I kind of got to have that experience again now that I graduated. I finished up my PhD almost exactly a year ago. And since then, worked at... I am not ready to accept that was a year, but the people I get to work with now. So I started working as the manager of engagement and communications at a company it's a biotech accelerator, and it's called Zontogeny. So basically, we help biotech startups grow and build their product and get to a point where they can actually start getting their product into the hands of patients and start affecting people's lives. And my job is to learn as much as I can about the biotech space, interact with people. I'm going to be doing a lot of engagement and education with academic researchers still. So I still, I'm really in my happy place of I'm learning a lot. I'm probably learning more science on a day-to-day basis than I was in the last 6 months of my PhD when I was just writing. Yeah. And, it's people who are really excited to be changing the world. And I feel really, really, really humbled and grateful for it.
Yeah, there's nothing like having a sense of mission when at your job. Everyone, Adriana is going to leave us because she has other things to do. So I'm just going to leave her a second to say goodbye.
Yeah, thank you for having me here. Enjoy the rest of the party and feel free to connect on LinkedIn if you'd like to discuss science policy. Yeah.
Yeah,
Thanks,
we've been
David.
praising LinkedIn here and the people, the PhD people on LinkedIn for a few minutes. Thanks, Adriana. It was really a lot of fun catching up with you and hearing about all you have going on and getting a glimpse of what's happening in DC and what this next year has in reserve for us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. So, yeah, Susanna. Yeah, Adriana let herself go out, and I somehow clicked on Natalia, but she's back. Yes, Susanna. One thing I'm really curious about, because after your PhD, well, you are someone who, in terms of networking, you probably had a lot of contacts even while you were writing. You were doing a lot of communication, science communication. But how did this position materialize? Because looking at what you do, it doesn't feel to me like there's a job description or a job posting specifically for that. Yeah, I'm curious about those first conversations and that job interview.
Yeah. Well, you are absolutely right in terms of that. There wasn't a job posting, so it was kind of an interesting situation when probably 3 months before I was about to finish my PhD. This was back in January, February of last year, pre-pandemic. My plan was to graduate and then probably spend about a year doing PhD Balance full time. Speaking on behalf of PhD Balance, I was doing a couple of speaking events every week, every month. If not, I had a couple weeks where I was doing a couple events. And I figured, if I'm doing the speaking events, I can subsist on that and take some time to build up PhD Balance as a community. And then the pandemic hit, and I, of course, did not feel comfortable relying on speaking event fees as my main income. So I basically had about a month before I was going to graduate to find a job. And that first job, I was the manager or the lead of marketing for a company that writes grants, federal grants on behalf of other biotech companies. So I got to learn a little bit more about that world, learn more about what it looks like to do communications and marketing for a business versus for some different social media events for personal branding that I had done a lot of in science communication. As I was in that job, one of the things that I was doing was reaching out to potential connections for the business I was working at. And one of the people that I reached out to was someone named Chris Garabedian. And so I spoke with him and his VP of External Affairs just on the chat to explain to them how our company was going and learn a little bit more about theirs. And about halfway through the conversation with them, Chris stops me and he's like, okay, all right. What is your background? And I was horrified. I was so embarrassed. I was like, I am so sorry. My background is not in marketing. I just started this a month ago. Any input is super helpful. I finished up my PhD in microbiology, and I was very flustered. He said, no. I mean, it's just, you kind of carry yourself with a different sort of cadence. A lot of these conversations, we talk with a lot of scientists. And so I was just sort of confused where you were coming from. And I was, okay. All right, fine. I had no idea what this person was. Yeah, it didn't sound sciencey. Apparently didn't sound marketery. He just was like, what is this? And so, and he reached back out to me a couple weeks later and said, hey, would love to, learn a little bit more about you. I'm always interested in meeting young people in the space. Okay. Have a lot of mentors. And it turned out that he had, after our call, had looked me up online, and he had found not just my social media in terms of Twitter and Instagram and how I had kind of curated a bit of a community there, but also found PhD Balance, found my website, found a video series I was doing called Ask Me I'm a Scientist, where I interviewed scientists on YouTube Live, and saw an opportunity to grow his company, saw a space where, hey, maybe these are types of activities and this is the type of approach that could be used to build the Zontogeny brand. He didn't really tell me that at the time. We had some ongoing conversations. I found out later that he's a really big deal in a lot of different spaces. He used to be a CEO of a public company. He's well regarded across all of biotech, which is really cool. But we just kept that conversation going, and that was in May, and he made me an official offer in January. We probably figured out in November or so that he was going to create a space for me on the team. But that's why there's not really a super clear definition of what my job is, because we're still trying to create a job around those talents.
Around it. So it really, it's that concept of the hidden job market, like 100%.
Yeah. And, people, I mean, there's so much luck and there's so much privilege involved in getting jobs this way. And I'm really that was one of the highlights of what the silver lining of the pandemic for me is that this would have never happened if it was in person. I would have never gotten this person's attention, had a Zoom call with them. But it also, I think, highlights the fact that if you do something you really like and you put in a lot of effort into it, eventually you get pretty good at it. And then eventually you can get paid for it. So I don't recommend that people try to turn all of their hobbies into a side hustle. And I certainly didn't do those YouTube videos to try to get a job. It was just, I wanted to do this, wanted to improve my skills. And I'm glad that I spent that time that way instead of, doing science writing, which I think is fantastic, but not a skill set that I really want to grow. So I think the stuff that you do in the meantime, you learn from whatever you're doing. And so I think as you're doing things, think about what you want to be learning and start crafting that together.
Natalia and Inês, this thing about finding jobs that are not posted, I don't know if you address them in your conversations, because of course networking is super important in that. When we're talking about that, but I wonder if you have if you have something to share about how to, if you have been just, if you had your nose in your books and in your research, how you start developing a little bit of your network. And we are going to get another guest in soon.
Right.
So Inês, Natalia, I don't know. I saw Natalia was smiling. Maybe you are.
Sorry,
you want to add
yeah,
something?
I just wanted to make a short comment about this, that I mean, there's nothing wrong with getting jobs this way, or even the opposite. I have a feeling that those jobs usually are more interesting and better positions than jobs that are posted just because they are crafted for you. So that's also why I'm focusing so much on the tribes, because getting, navigating towards the right group of people, and I wouldn't call it hustling, but orienting yourself in the right direction, and then finding people who want to employ you personally and then create the job for you. Usually people who start like this usually end up in a better place eventually, using this strategy. And so congratulations to Susanna. And I think this is just a great example. And in general, this is what I usually advise people to do. So spend more time on networking than on actually answering the job application letters, because also this form of job search usually has eventually higher success rate as well. So there are no downsides almost.
That's true. Inês, did you have a comment?
Yeah, it would be lovely to dive into two topics that Susanna talked about. One is about turning your hobbies into your actually job. I think that's a very tricky thing, because when you are working, you might love your job, you might be very good at what you're doing, but there are gonna be ups and downs. You're gonna hate it some days and you're gonna love it some others. And imagine if I love cooking and then I decided I'm gonna become a cook and I'm gonna sell meals for people and deliver them. It will come a day where I will start hating cooking, and I will maybe stop doing it with so much love and so much pleasure to my family and to my friends. So I think that we should think very, very carefully about what kind of hobbies we want to actually monetize, because that's what we will eventually be doing. Because it's impossible to love a job every day. I mean, it's natural. It's part of the process. It's just like life. Life is beautiful, but some days are not. And like relationships, beautiful. Some days crappy. It just happens. So I actually read some articles about the topic, and sometimes the smartest option is not to convert your hobbies into your job, but is to find a job that you enjoy doing while you can manage to keep on having in parallel your hobbies, because those are the ones that gonna make you through the bad days if you keep on loving them and if you keep on investing time in them. And so that was something that Susanna talked about, and I really was like inside thinking, oh yeah, I want to talk about this. But related to network, we have this, I'm not sure if culturally every country is like this, but in Portugal we have this kind of thinking that if you get a job because you know someone, or it's because it's through your network, that it seems that you're not actually got the job in a very, how do you say, honest way. Cheating. Yeah, it was cheating. But there's a very, very big difference between finding a job because you're cheating and not having the skills for it, and finding a job because you've been referred to that job, or because you worked your way through to that job, because you went and you talked to people and you show them there's more than meets the eye relates to you. And especially when you have a very diverse background, it's very, very hard, because they look at your CV and they think, oh, there's so many things here, I don't know where to start, so let's just go with someone that's safer. But then they might be missing out on a lot of good things. So I think building a network, and it's very, very important. And there's also this concept that I love, which is net weaving. We don't talk about it much, but there's networking and then there's net weaving. And networking usually is associated with you building a network because you want something, so you're going to take something out of it. But then net weaving is building a network for the sake of building a network, and while you are thinking on how you can make that network connect and create synergies between the people that you know and that are around you. And if you are more focused in net weaving, in getting to know people and understanding who they are and helping whomever you can, it will naturally come to you. And I can totally understand that someone out there is listening to this and thinking, yeah, that's very nice, but I mean, either you went to a great college, you have rich parents or whatever. There are so many reasons why that happens to you. It doesn't happen to me, but seriously, just approach it in a different way, because the way you approach it and the way that you present yourself, it will show who you are naturally. So if you keep on doing good, good will come naturally. And if you keep on nurturing those networks without any seconds intention, which is basically what happened with Susanna. I mean, people will see it in you, and it will come. And I definitely think that nurturing good networks is important. And nurturing good networks, it's as important to bring people into your life as it is to leave people out of it, because there are also a lot of toxic people that are not in there to support you or to help you. Yeah. So and this is something very difficult also, to say no to things, say no to people, say no to projects. And saying no, it's actually such an important skill nowadays in the world that we live, where everything changes so fast and there's so much FOMO. We fear missing something that's happening. We don't exactly know what it is, but I'm missing on something. So just chill. That's basically it. It will come.
I am going to bring someone who's been waiting for a little while on to the stream, hailing from Israel. Ido Rosenzweig, how are you?
This is very international. Awesome.
Very international.
Yes,
Hi, David.
From Ido is in the, how can I say, is behind the curtain of the what can you do with that podcast.
What are you going to do with that? Yeah.
What are you going to do with that with Dani Reges? How are you?
I'm good. Congratulations on your special episode.
Thank you.
Suzanne, here it's 8 p.m.
Yes.
So
Hey,
the drinks are
you know,
Yeah.
it is absolutely fine. It could be 8 a.m. and we'd still cheers to you. Yeah.
So cheers.
Cheers. Yeah.
David.
Yeah, well, thank you. So yeah, the actual episode 100 is a very special episode to me. It's in English and it's about diversity and inclusivity. I extended an invitation to my guest on that episode, but I didn't get confirmation. They're probably busy. If they come, they're going to be a surprise guest. And it's Shaz Zamor, and really inspiring conversation and look into what the future of academia and of research can be with inclusivity and with diversity. But thank you, Ido. Super happy to have you here. You've been listening for a little while. Apart from what are you going to do with that, you are involved at the Minerva Center at the University of Haifa. You are organizing a bunch of seminars and conferences for early career researchers. So networking, I would say, although you were also working towards your PhD still, or has it ended yet?
No, it hasn't.
Okay, so
that serious blow.
Yeah, the COVID has put a stop to it. Yeah. But networking is at the center of your non-PhD activities. Do you have a comment on what we were discussing just a minute ago?
Actually, yeah. I think networking is important. I've been especially in my field. You're talking about the conferences and the events I do at the Minerva Center. I also work as an international lawyer. And within that field, I'm very connected, and I need to be very well connected with colleagues from all over the world, because you never know when the next opportunity will come up, and you don't know when you'll be able to help someone and they will be able to help you. But I do have a comment to what Inês said, that I usually refer to networking kind of like a casino chips. Mm-hmm. You know, you have them, you gather them, you have a lot of them, but only when you need to cash them in, you actually know if they're going to be worth it at the time you need them, or it's just a lot of good people you know, and it's just colored chips, and you really have nothing to do with them. Because there are the times that you need a job. You finish a project, and you finish your PhD, you finish something, and you're looking for a job, and you're calling out to all of your networking, and there's nothing. And there are the times when you just finish a project and you say, okay, I'm available, and suddenly, you get this phone call and that phone call and this email, and everyone is going to contact you and tell me, well, we have this project that might be relevant for you. Mm-hmm. So you never know when networking and the contacts are going to be worth it, and that's why you need as much as you can, because the more you have, the better chances you're going to have actually, in a lack of better word, to monetize them.
Yeah.
Inês is going to have to leave. Inês, it was great seeing you again, and take advantage of the California weather.
Thank you.
Here in Montreal, there's no snow anymore, but it's still like springtime. Thank you for having been here. It was really, really fun to catch up with you.
Thank you so much. This was wonderful. It was wonderful to hear you all. And Ido, thank you for your remark and building on what we were telling already. Thank you to all of you out there that are listening to us too. It was a very nice chat. Bye.
Bye.
Congrats.
Bye. Thank you. Yeah. So we were talking about this importance of not basically just not staying alone and just creating a community, even though we're at home. We've talked about LinkedIn a lot during this video, but just the friendships I have created on LinkedIn are pretty amazing, and I've never met these people in person, right? Susanna, one of the things that you've talked about at PhD Balance, which has a mission that you've had and that you still have, I'm sure, in your heart. I don't know how much time you can give to that mission today, and I know you're not at the head of that anymore, but it has been mental health and advocating and helping people in graduate school who are going through mental health issues. And for sure, community must be a big part of the right thing to cultivate to help, right? To help,
Yeah.
not staying alone in your research, not feeling like you're a failure when an experiment doesn't work.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's so one of the reasons that I think it looks like grad students are so lonely so often, and so many grad students are, is that you're kind of caught in this in-between world where you might have some sense of competition, even if it's like a friendly sort of situation, but you're always comparing yourself to your colleagues, to the people who are at the bench next to you. You want to see your friends in grad school succeed, of course, but it's, when you don't win a fellowship and they do, there's kind of a sting to that, and you can't express that to them, right? But at the same time, your friends outside of the graduate school system don't really understand the gravity of not getting that fellowship. And you have this situation where you have this difficulty that you can't express to somebody. Or even if you're the one who won that fellowship, you don't want to talk to your friend who didn't get it. And the people outside academia might not even know how cool that is. And so finding in a community, whether it's actually around you in person or online, can be really nice, because then you can share your life with people who appreciate the situations that you're going through. So that's kind of, and you add on, that's such a big aspect of mental health, is feeling a sense of community, a sense of belonging, and that stability. So that's kind of what we tried to cultivate and continue to cultivate with PhD Balance, of just allowing people all around the world to share in those kind of shared experiences and to support each other in whatever stage that they are specifically in.
Natalia, I don't know in your work and in the practice, the experience that you have talking and training people, if that part of feeling balanced, which is the case, is something that you discuss with them, or that you cover with them.
Yeah. Actually, indeed, academia is structured in a way that it kind of induces competition, because at the end of the day, we always have to worry about our own individual performance. And in many other environments, it's not. It's like the structure is different, and the way of incentivizing employees or professionals is different, and it's much more promotes teamwork than in academia. So, indeed. I am aware of this problem. I experienced that myself, and but when I work with PhDs who are now transitioning to industry, I always try to get over that stage. So it's very important to start thinking about yourself as professional, like white collar professional in the open world, because at the end of the day, what you bring out of academia are your skills and your capabilities to solve complex problems and your working ethics. But as soon as but you have to close the door behind you. Now you have to navigate in this open field, and it will be fine. And you have to kind of try to leave those worries and those hardships behind, because now your life will change, and you have to adapt to new situations. So I really try to work on that, so that work on this sense of hope and new beginning, and try to close the door behind. And I think I am not really focusing. So I'm not really focusing on the hardships of the academic life, although I'm fully aware of them. But I think for people who come to me for help, I think it's better if we really think ahead, and we don't discuss those too much, and we just try to move on and make best out of our time to just look ahead. Yes.
Now, great, and it's true. It's a change of culture, a change of vocabulary, and a change of geography completely. While Susanna was talking about getting or not getting a fellowship and what that means to your peers or to your non-academic friends, I saw Ido was nodding. What does that look like for ECRs, for early career researchers? I'm sure there's some sort of dynamic that resembles what Susanna was describing.
Well, it depends on how you look at ECRs, because the definition of ECR, when we started talking about the podcast and everything, we actually we used the term young researchers, as we use as the Minerva Center. And right at the beginning, we wrote in the profile of the account and everything, we refer to young researchers as a phase in the academia, not as an age. And also when I do young researchers workshop or conferences at the Minerva Center, we call it young researchers workshop, but we say up to 5 years after the finish of your PhD, regardless of your age. So this is our general definition of what it is. So the definition of an ECR is so broad that it actually includes so many different types of researchers that there is no one answer to what Susanna was referring to. But the competition in the world of ECRs is very, very tough. And actually in our second episode, I think, which was pretty much a year ago, we interviewed a friend of mine, because, well, this is what you do in the podcast, as you know, the first episode, you bring your friends. Yeah, because sure. You don't have anyone else, right? No one knows you at that time.
I did the same.
The first episode, you bring your friends. So I brought a friend, and he actually was just about to get the tenure track position, and he said that his advice to other early career researchers was not to focus only on the publication of articles, and not only focus on the getting the prizes and this kind of stuff. It was actually, if you want to improve your chances to get a tenure track position, bring the book deal, bring the contract for a book. So show that you're one step ahead. And that's even better actually to have the contract than actually the actual book. Because if you have the contract, then the new place will get the credits for the book if we publish while you're already there. So they will get actually the academic credit for that book. So it actually put yourself, because of that competition of everyone is going to publish, and everyone is going to publish in good places today. And a lot of us are going to have some experience in teaching today, and we're going to have different experiences going to conferences and everything. So you need to find the edge. So his advice was to get that book contract. But every time, everyone needs a different edge. So, for example, I don't know if I'm going to go to academia later on. I know that I've developed certain types of skills that are a bit different than the usual ECR. Apart from the conferences and the events I do, and the unique projects like the podcast and the YouTube channel that we have, also I know how to write grants applications. So I know how to get money into the Minerva Center for that matter. And so that's my added value that I've obtained and developed. So you need to, today, in the ECR world of today, you actually need special skills that are beneficial to the institution that you're applying to. And that's kind of my answer.
So you need to differentiate yourself from the pack in a way.
You always need to have an added value.
What is, I'm just curious, what's in the works for the podcast this year? Is there a new season coming up?
Well, we are actually right in the middle of season 2.
Okay.
We published episode 12 out of 20 today. So, and I love that episode. It's with Natasha Bhardwaj. Hopefully I'm saying her name correctly. That's the benefit of being a producer. I don't really need to make sure that I'm pronouncing the names quite that good as Danny has to do. And then her story of starting as a Bollywood actress, up to being a PhD candidate in the US, doing her research on women in prison in Sri Lanka and India.
Oh, wow.
I really love Natasha. I really love her story.
I need to hear that story.
And unlike the first season, by the way, that we've promoted from pretty much episode to episode, this time, since episode 5, I already had the lineup until episode 20 for the entire season. And one of the fun parts of that is that, as I said, at the beginning, we approach friends because, this is what you do. But soon enough, people started approaching us, asking to be a guest on our show. And from the point of asking people if they are willing to be on our show, which almost never been refused, luckily, we came to the position where we said, well, we have only 20 episodes per season. So we actually have to say no to some people and reject some people because we're looking a lot for diversity. We're looking for all kinds of diversities on our show: geographical diversity, gender diversity, topic diversity, field diversity. We're trying to be as much global as we can. And that means that we actually have to say no to some of the people who approach us to our show, which is not that fun to do. But if you look at the prestige of the show, I'm sure it doesn't harm us that we're actually a competitive place to be.
I understand it, and it's true that it's fun to see that evolution. Now we're talking about podcasting. Natalia has a YouTube channel, and Susanna, part of your work is being on Clubhouse and listening to conversations. Now, I do have, my son is ringing at the door, and I didn't leave the door open. I'll just pop in and go get him. But can you please talk about that, and let's talk about this thing of new media and what they mean to scientists, what they mean to people who want to build communities.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a part of my, I'm here. Part of my job is that I have to listen to Clubhouse discussions and also contribute to them. But part of what I'm doing is for one of the clubs, Biotech Club, which is run by my boss, I am recording a lot of the conversations to go through and create some notes from those. In the future, we're going to share those. It also is a way for me to network, to find other people that we can be reaching out to. One of the most important things, too, about thinking about how to go forward. You never, as a creator, you want to, and I'm sure everyone else in this conversation has their own input on this as well. But for me as a creator, I want to see what other people are doing, take pieces of what they're doing, say, oh, wow. I mean, there's a couple people I follow on Clubhouse, not because I know them or they have anything to do with what I do, but there's one person I follow where she's just a fantastic moderator. And I listen to her shows, not because I'm interested in what she's saying, but because I just love how she runs a room. And it's so empathy-based, but it's also, she has control over the room. I'm always learning something. And so listening to Clubhouse, since it is a new medium and since I don't know that much about biotechnology yet, has been such a wonderful way to connect with a new group of people and also just immerse myself in both Clubhouse and this new topic at the same time.
When I saw that post, I was like, happy for you, number one, but super curious. But it totally makes sense because the conversations are so candid, so free of. Well, there's rules in the rooms, and it depends on the rooms, of course. I've been in a couple. I've hosted a couple. It's been so rewarding to be able to just hear what people have to say unfiltered, but also to answer their questions when they have them. It's really interesting. I don't know whether Ido or Natalia have experienced Clubhouse yet. It's still only on iPhone, on Apple, which is it's a drag. But I totally understand now what the role of Clubhouse is in all of this.
Actually,
okay.
Oh, go ahead, Natalia.
No, I wanted to say that I was thinking of trying, and I even have an account there, but I was really afraid that it would be yet another addictive activity. So my question to Susanna would be, on a scale of 1 to 10, how addictive is this? Is it like compared to Twitter? Is it more or less so?
Yeah, so I think I've had the opposite experience actually with Clubhouse compared to Twitter, where I started with Twitter and I was like, this is super overwhelming. I am not, and eventually as I engage more and more, now it's like it's actually a problem where I occasionally just delete the app from my phone, can only use it on my computer. Clubhouse for me, the first 2 weeks, I was like in a room constantly. I wanted to learn about this. I want to hear about this. But then, I mean, the thing with Clubhouse is that it's basically a set of uncurated podcasts or forums. It's a bit like being dropped into a giant conference center where each individual room is having a totally different conversation. And no one has been vetted for if they're going to be a speaker. So it's really a toss-up if you get into a room and it's going to be awesome content and you're going to feel like, oh my gosh, I'm so glad I was here for this exclusive conversation that was so real. I mean, Bill Gates spoke on it and was like a different tone than I've ever heard him before from his webcasts and things. On the other side, I eventually, it probably took me 2 weeks to just get pretty burnt out. And now I listen to maybe 4 hours a week, but it's much more casual. It's just on in the headset. But it's because you eventually it's not like Twitter, where Twitter will just weed out what you don't like already. If you don't interact with somebody, you don't see it. Clubhouse has so many kinks. It's almost impossible. You really can't message with people on it. And so for me, it's been the least addictive. I hope that some pieces they put in place will allow you to kind of find better quality versus bigger names. But it's weirdly made me miss podcasts because I'm like, I do want this. I love the sound interaction, but I really want the quality of David's podcast. And, I've never heard your podcast, so now I'm going to have to check it out. But you can actually rely on the consistent quality of a podcast versus Clubhouse has been, really hit or miss. So I recommend people try it out because I don't think there's as high of a risk of getting just really hooked on it.
No, I agree. It's been my experience too, and it's a very different medium. At the beginning, people were saying, "Oh, is Clubhouse going to kill the podcast?" But no, it just is not. It just is not, because it's not as well constructed. When you listen to a podcast, there's a story, there's a line, and here it's a room of people raising hands to talk and share their piece, and it's really, really different. And also, for me, finding a room that interests you. There's so many rooms now and so many clubs that it gets really hard to weed through and find it. I am going to bring the last guest on the list today, who is Vera, who also has a YouTube channel. This is a very media panel to finish the party today. Hi, Vera.
Hey, David. First of all, I popped my beer, which has sit in my fridge for 2 months now, for you, because congratulations on 100 episode.
So now we're
7 p.m. in France, so I'm
Canada, US. Yeah, that's it. Canada, US, Netherlands, Israel, and France. This is, I think, the most nationalities I've had on one single screen. Thanks for being here, Vera. Vera is the host and producer of the PhD Coffee Time channel, where, again, she's one of us, of this club of people who want to help other, especially younger scientists with advice. Vera, you've been listening for a little while. You started kind of totally on your own, this adventure of starting a YouTube channel. Do you have a comment on this thing of new media? Well, YouTube is not as new as Clubhouse, but still, there's still space for young researchers, and especially if we're thinking of other languages than English, to hop on YouTube and start sharing their passions. What has been your experience, and maybe your interaction with some of your subscribers? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting you asked me about Clubhouse, because Pavel, who interviewed me actually on his other YouTube channel last week, he asked about the same question of Clubhouse, and I was a little hesitant to try because, first of all, YouTube is a lot of time commitment. Every video you need to edit, like every 15 minutes of my video takes 7 to 8 hours of editing time. So I really have very little bandwidth to try new social media platforms, even Twitter, Facebook. I'm barely LinkedIn. I'm barely keeping up with my new job now. So, but I would say I'm maybe the least spontaneous person that you may know. So I'm not. So even with videos, I have a lot of. I think I'm quite obsessed to make things right, and today's live is quite exclusive because I am usually not quite well articulated in live with live audience. So yeah, you may appreciate my editing now after hearing me speaking live.
Don't worry, you know what? Like, English is not my first language.
Yeah.
And I used to edit my podcast so much at the beginning. Then I talked with someone who said, look, everyone hesitates. That's your voice, it's your charm. The time you're spending doing those edits is precious time. And I just stopped doing them, or at least only editing out like really loud, I don't know, mouth clicks or whatever. But don't worry, and this is a safe space. Everyone's your friend around here, so
Yeah.
don't worry about that at all.
But I must say it sounds quite intimidating because of like the spontaneous nature of Clubhouse. And I know Natalia actually asked me before by direct message on Twitter that whether I know about Clubhouse. I said I don't know enough. And I think I thank Susanna for introducing so well today the analogy of being in a conference center and having rooms of people talking is quite intriguing. I do enjoy going to conferences back in PhD, so I think I will try to join one of your rooms and see how it goes for me.
And the cool thing, and confirm, Susanna, you can just go and listen. You don't have to raise your hand. So Susanna, one thing she was saying at the beginning is she's listening a lot, right? You don't have to be on stage. You can really just go and listen. And sometimes some of the people who are presenting, there's this author of a book that I read, and he was there talking to people. I just went in and just listened. Like it was a present for me. So and
I think that, I mean, if it's like this conversation in so many rooms, it's at best like this conversation where you have a great moderator who's asking questions, who introduces people, who drives that conversation, make sure there's not an awkward lull or something, and there's a unifying theme of the conversation. And on top of that, it's just on your phone. You're not seeing people's faces. You don't have to get ready in any format. But the Clubhouse experience has definitely made me appreciate people like you, David, and your abilities to do these things, because for everyone else listening or watching or even in this room, you can imagine what this conversation would be like if David wasn't here, where we'd have the same people in the room, but we'd all be, waiting for someone else to drive the conversation. So I think at worst, Clubhouse is sort of awkward, but you can definitely go in and just listen. And also a good thing to know is that when you go into a room, you're automatically muted. You're not allowed to speak. You can't really mess up on joining a room, so you'll be okay.
Yeah.
It does remind me, David, the special episode we did for the end of 2020 we did a special YouTube edition of academic podcasters.
It's true.
And we had 12 podcasters, in a one joint Zoom meeting. I was moderating that, and I think that I told them in the back room that that's going to be very interesting to moderate people who by nature talking is their habit.
Yeah.
So yeah, but it went quite well actually. That was one of the best experiences we've had on our YouTube channel, and generally with all the podcasters. Yeah, that was quite fun event.
It was, and not, thanks Susanna for your kind words. I do think that I got lucky that first I like this audio techie stuff. I liked it from before, and and I do consider myself an introvert, but I've always been good at kind of actively and empathically listening, and I think that's why it worked. Anyway, I don't really want to take a lot of credit for it, but thanks for your kind words, and I do feel after 100 episodes that I'm getting better and better each time. And I was mentioning it before. At the beginning, I was reading questions verbatim, 1, 2, 3 to 12, and now I do send the questions to people so they kind of know what the podcast is about. But then the conversation goes where it goes, and I'm glad people are enjoying it, and thanks for appreciating it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Vera, your public is people who are you've been done your PhD for a little while. Also interesting, and this is one thing I wanted to talk with you. When we met for your interview, you were out of a job. You were in France, and you were in between jobs, right?
Right.
But this is not the case anymore. And kind of like Susanna, you somehow, being in France, coming from Hong Kong, you were able to find a job. And this kind of has to do with the fact that today it doesn't really, depending on the job, but the type of job that you got, and you can talk about it in a minute, you don't really need to be, you can do it from home or from wherever you are. But can you talk a little bit about the process of being, in Europe, in another country, and finding a job? And I guess there was some networking involved. How did that go? And can you maybe share a little bit, because we haven't been able to talk a lot since, about what it is that you're doing today?
Yeah, thanks for asking me that question. Actually, your podcast has given me a platform to get a lot of people who it's like a magnet that it attracts a lot of great people and great conversation to come into my life to bring help. And one of them, Natalia, was there because she offered me to train me on her workshop, and also the books. I read her book, and it was a process of us, beside everyone think about finding a job as identifying what is that job title, what is that job description, and you try to rehearse what is written on the job description, and you interview and try to get that job to win that job. But I think one of the least thought about question is your internal personality, who you are, and whether or not you are honoring the side of you that is maybe different from the others. And in the process of, maybe I was unemployed for quite long actually. So during that few months, I was reading a lot of books, including Natalia's books. I was taking a lot of time to not only get trainings that are required for my industry right now, which is in pharmaceutical industry. I found several NIH training that I'm happy to share links later. They are free of charge online. But most importantly, I think I started to embrace the fact that I could be in a role that is not everything. Like postdoc and PhD, you have to write well, you have to be good in the lab, and you have to present well, everything. You have to do everything well. But I've come to a realization that I actually could do without the lab work. I could actually be a writer. I actually really enjoy reading and writing scientifically. And after having met many people in different jobs, I have spoken to research scientists, R&D scientists. I've spoken to medical liaison. I've spoken to medical writer, and it just occurs to me that medical writers are my people, and it's like my tribes of people. We have the same. If you see any of my video, I speak about writing like it is a religion. you have to start the day, your deepest thought in the morning to start writing. and track your time and yeah, and I do that myself for like 6 years, like in the past. And then yeah, now I become medical writer, and I felt like this is exercising my strongest muscle, and I'm really happy to be in my role right now. Yeah, so that was a fast forward process of how, you know, abstractly how that works. I can tell more detail if there is interest.
And I don't remember if you mentioned it precisely, but also during that time of being in between jobs, you launched a YouTube channel, right? That's when you launched it, right?
No, actually, that was before.
It was before.
Maybe that's why I was unemployed. No, the thing about YouTube channel, it was January. I launched it last year, January. I'm the New Year resolution type of person. So I knew by around that time, my contract with postdoc will finish by April, so in 4 months. So at that time, I just felt like I wanted to document what I have learned, because like I think Eno has talked about early career scientists. I actually was 6 years after PhD, so I'm no longer an earlier career scientist, and I have learned so much in the process, and it just makes me feel sad to think about if I leave now, like none of these conversations can help anybody else. Like there are students who come to me and I would teach them how to make a Gantt chart. I would teach them how to label a tube in the lab. Like it just, a little part of myself was like, this is going to be my last word that I want to document, and someone who need it on Google, they will find it on YouTube. So that was the mentality. And I my New Year resolution last year was to post 1 video a week to just show up as a scientist and maybe bring on value to the next generation scientists. I chose YouTube because I'm a very visual person. I like to see screenshots and I like to see Excel sheets on the screen. So that's why I chose. Yeah, and also my English is not native, and there's a part of me thinking to myself that I'm not good enough for a podcast.
Well, I think you'd have an audience. Susanna is probably going to have to leave soon. I don't know if you had a comment on this. I do get the feeling though that I look around the screen and we're all communicators, even though we're doing it in different forms. It's somehow the passion of reaching out to other people and bringing some sort of message of help or advice is in all of our hearts and of our minds. It's really, really inspiring. Susanna, did you have a last word? And if you have to go, you can just say bye.
Yeah, I mean, again, thank you so much for having me on here, and it's been really cool to even listen in to some of these conversations, because there's that tie-in of communication and really the meaning of communication. I think oftentimes we misunderstood communication as talking at people, and I love that everyone here is discussing how it's a conversation. It's both sides learning from each other, trying to give more than you take. And you know, David, it's been really cool to connect with you because of your podcast, but then to stay connected with you across different social platforms. And it's definitely like warm fuzzies whenever you comment on something on LinkedIn. And it's, you know, we've never met face to face, and hopefully at some point we will. But I think communication is really what gives so much of us those pieces of purpose that we need to kind of fill in different areas of our life, or at least that's how it is for me. So thank you so much to you, David, and to all of the other guests that are here to just kind of share your ideas. This has been very much a highlight of my day.
For me too. Thank you so much, and all the best for your projects. And always curious to see what you're doing and where you're going. Thank you, Susanna.
Take care. Bye.
Take care. And I would like to just say briefly that I'd like to thank to Vera for net weaving and for mentoring, of course. And actually, we still work with Vera in some ways. So this aptitude test I'm just working on. So I'm also working with a graphic designer to make a cool graphic design for these different types of roles that you can take, and different types of like ways of building value. One of them has Vera's face, so like we created a cool graphic design where she was the model, and you will see in a month how it looks. It looks pretty cool, I think.
I'm curious to see it, and you've asked me for help with it, and for sure we're going to talk about that. Now, this is, we've way overshot the time that I had envisioned for this video, but the conversation was so good, and I wonder whether there's anything else you'd like to talk about. Ido, you just it was just the 1 year anniversary for what you're going to do with that, and I'm sure that you have felt also that after 1 year, the way first, you already mentioned people come to you to be on the show, which is great. And second, you also get better at it. I don't know exactly what your process is in terms of editing, etc. On my side, I do it all, and of course, I have, I tried to get some mentorship in terms of technical things of podcasting or how to promote, etc. But you do get better with time. And Vera, I imagine also on your side, with your videos, and same thing with Natalia. We make these projects evolve. We try to make them better and better for our listenership, for our viewers. Do you have anything to say about that, or maybe about things that are coming up that you want to announce?
I'd like to mention that I have already made video with David, and we've spoken about how your podcast is like a way that I can access network of yours easily. Like Susanna just left, but like actually I have interviewed her, and there will be a video about her and about PhD balance, and I prepare myself by listening to the 2 episodes that you interviewed. But when I got to get to meet with her, I was already feeling like I've met this person and I know her stories and we connect right away. And it was I can't say thank you enough to David, because 100 episodes, you are connecting basically 100 people or more. Like if I were a PhD student trying to get a job, I think the biggest benefit I can get is to just play the podcast. I think what to do with that podcast is also a conversation, but the other side of it is everyone is someone you can connect with professionally, like a networking activity in the background. So I liked people in, like, if you are seeing this live, I'm bad at speaking live, but if you're watching this, I hope this inspires you to think of not only the content that people create, but maybe who are these people who create this content, and is there a way, if there's something in common you think you would like to connect with them in person, guess what, these people all reply to your message on LinkedIn, and it's wonderful. So I like to say thank you to David, but I also hope more people make use of this networking opportunity on the podcast.
Yeah, I tried to give a taste, on the show, and try to make kind of an informational interview in a way, but with my questions. But of course, I don't know if I say it on each episode, but if someone that comes on the show sounds interesting to you, reach out to them. There's a link in all the show notes. There's a LinkedIn link. There's a Twitter link. These people are eager, and they'll be more than happy to answer and to help you with whatever you need if you're trying to go and to follow their path. So yeah, and I'm really happy that it has really worked out for you, Vera. It's kind of a proof of concept.
Right.
Ido, on your side.
I have to say I like the interconnection thing we have here on especially in this group, because we had the cross podcasting episode with you, David, and we had Danny, a guest on Natalia's show. She's been there, and Vera was on one of our videos on how it is to be a researcher abroad. So there is that. That's one of the things I didn't know about podcasting when I started. It's that how good of interaction it is with the other podcasters, with the other broadcasters in YouTube, on other channels, on other platforms. There is such a good vibe, and there is such a good vibe of collaboration that I really didn't know that. And when we started a year ago, and I think David, you had the first academic podcast that I actually found.
Okay.
After we started we had kind of a show. We had an idea, and we started. We recorded a couple of episodes, and then we said, okay, we need to use Twitter to get into that. And we weren't big on Twitter at that time. I started looking for a few, and I saw your academic podcast. I listened to it and said, okay, that's nice. And we started interacting from that point on, and we're interacting almost a year now because of that. Yeah. And then there was all the hidden chat group that we have of academic podcasters, and things went really insane from that point. So this is the one thing, if people think about podcasters, they don't really understand the things that goes behind the scene from all of us. As a producer, I don't do the show. Danny is talking on the show. I do the editing. I do the pre-talk. I do the booking of the guests. I do all of the things behind the scenes, but I let Danny be the front person because she's better at it than I am, and I want her to be. I wanted her to be the face of the podcast. But as the behind the scene guy, as you described me at the beginning, I do get to do the pre-talk with the guests. Okay. And for me, that's the best part of it. I get to know every guest. I get to talk with them. I get to interact with them. I get to, with a lot of them, we're actually staying in contact. We stay in touch with them. And every time we come up with a new idea, we come up with a new weird idea for some of them, and they work. We've had, suddenly we started a YouTube channel, and in last September, we did a conference for early career researchers from all over the world, from all over, from all fields, and this experience has been a life-changing experience. So both for me and Danny, and I'm sure it has been for you, all three of you, just as well.
And friendships the
friendships, the experience, the skills we've gained, all of it. So definitely, we are at episode 32 right now. We are taking it at a slower pace than you, David. We do every other week, and we take a break for the summer, just so we're able to actually finish our PhD at some point. But Danny and I need to. Priority is day job. Then come the PhD, and then come podcasting, and I'm not talking even about family in the side, that all of that. So but so we do it in a slow pace, and we are at episode 32. We're looking at 40 by the end of this season, but already thinking about the next conference we're going to do for early career researchers, and we already think about new videos, and it's an ongoing process, and it's an amazing process.
It is. And what makes it amazing, like you say, is this family, this community that's somehow developed around it.
Yeah, cool. I like to chime in for that, because I'm honored, because of course I know Danny, and of course I know the podcast, but this is an honor today to get to know and see the person behind the scenes, and thanks for doing the service for everybody. And I'd like to extend the invite to you and Danny. Anytime when you get an event when you want to get promoted on PhD Coffee Time and reach all the audience that are subscribed to the Practical PhD Tips videos, you're welcome to be there as a guest. And I love to talk about any events, any resources that you made for PhD students.
Thanks.
Super cool. See the net weaving happening.
Net weaving. You can refuse me later, but I already offering my offer is sent. But yes, you can refuse me later. I know he does give a lot of rejection for his podcast, so I'm prepared to get rejection since I'm coming from academia. It's always about rejection. It's important you get graduated first, so you have a lot on your plate. But anytime you can feel free to reach out to me.
Perfect. Thank you.
Natalia, did you want to share something before the
end?
Well,
I was also surprised to find out that I'm actually making a lot of friends this way, and sometimes I'm very surprised with getting approvals for shooting episodes from people who are very busy, and Yeah, for instance, on the incoming Saturday. So for me, this is also a self-discovery process, and I think I have some like in the long term, I would like to understand the job market in general. I think, as mentioned before, there is no such thing as PhD jobs. Like there is no such label. So I'm also in the future maybe going towards more like job market in general, and I started experimenting with inviting business developers to the channel. And on the incoming Saturday, I'm also making an interview with one of the leading lawyers from Bay Area, whom I had pleasure to meet 4 years ago just by accident at some meetup. And his rate is $1,000 per hour, and he agreed to come to the channel, talk for free, just because we know each other, and just it was his kindness to talk to me. And so basically, I'm always surprised with the quality of people who come, and also with the quality of the content, and with hearing yes so often, because I would not predict, if someone told me a year or two ago that I would have a channel in the first place, I would be like, are you crazy? I never have a YouTube channel. But also with like what interesting people I will meet in the process. Or last week we had Olga Ukolova, who is now she's actually a medical doctor. She's not a PhD technically, but she's a doctor, and she's now developing third layer of the Bitcoin protocol, and like that's what she's doing. And like, so it's people who are super busy, and I'm very I feel flattered that I can talk to them. Yeah.
It does feel like a privilege, and looking back and just looking at you guys, and looking at where you are, to be in this moment where everyone is so isolated, to be able to be right now, having spent I don't know how much time talking with you, Israel, France, the Netherlands, and in the morning I was talking with France, and so yeah, it is somehow a privilege. I'm super grateful for it. I'm super grateful that at a time where I somehow had time, I decided to launch into this podcasting adventure, and that today I have this pod family almost, that has burgeoned from that initial project. So super happy. Natalia, Vera, Ido, I think we've reached the end of this this very long but very good party. I'm super happy that you were here. I hope everyone of you and everyone who was on the show and who's watching either live or on replay, that they are safe, that they stay healthy, that they get their vaccine as soon as possible, and that life resumes to some sort of normality very soon. So thank you for having come. Thanks for your kind words, and all the best for your great projects and for all you're giving to the community.
Thank you,
for
Dave.
having me.